So we have now a kasha from Reb Chaim. This is Reb Chaim in Hilchos Gerushin, Perek Zayin Halacha Tes, and you'll find this in the Otzer Ayunim, Marocha Lamed Tes, page Gimel, on the left column towards the bottom. Hiksha Grach. Ma hava min l'chayev koton b'din ben soru mor. The Gemara has a proof that since it says ben ish, the word ish is coming to tell you that the ben soru mor has to be a gadol. He has to have shtei saras and not a koton. But there was a havamina that even a koton could be chayev as a ben soru mor. But we know that a ben soru mor needs edus. Bezdin can't put him to death without two witnesses to testify to the fact that he did what he had to do in order to be a ben soru mor. What kind of havamina is there that he could be chayev as a ben soru mor as a koton? The Gemara establishes at the end of Bava Kama, ein mekabel edus shelo b'fnei bal din. Adam have to testify. This is called Yovel Bal Ashor V'Yod Al Shoro. That if, let's say, you want to establish a shor as a shor muad, then the Adam that testify about the shor that it gored on 3 occasions, etc., they have to testify in the presence of the Baal Ashor. And that's called Ein Mekalim Edus Shelo B'fnei Bal Din. And the pasuk says, "V'huad bibola v'lo yishmerenu," and that means that the Edom have to testify in the presence of the Baal Ashor. Now, there's also another element in the equation, because by testifying in the presence of the Baal Ashor, they give a warning to the Baal Ashor that he better be careful and watch and guard his shor properly. The oath. Now let's add another Gemara. This is here in Sanhedrin Ayin Tes. We have to understand that this requirement that the edus be in front of the Baal Din is critical. It's indispensable. And therefore, let's say a Rotzeach got mixed up with other Rotzchim, and there was no Gemar Din on one particular Rotzeach, as there was on the other, or as there were on the others. We can't complete the judgment on this Rotzeach because Kevon Shekshein Makirino, so we can't identify him. Hareze Kishalo Lefana. And now in this case of a Taroves, we don't know which is the one that didn't yet have a Gemar Din. We can't put anyone to death because you cannot testify against this one who didn't have a Gemar Din, because if you don't know that he is the Rotzeach, you can't identify him, that's not considered Befana. And therefore, he's Patur and all the others are Patur because of the Taroves. Oh. Now we get to the punchline, the Gemara in Bava Kama that says that Katan Kishalo B'fanav Dami. How can you ever have edus against the Ben Soru Mor if he's a Katan? There's no such thing as edus b'fnei Katan. He's not a Baldin for the purpose of the edus, and we cannot put this fellow to death without getting edus. So what was the havamina for which the Torah had to go out of its way, lafuke, and add the word ish to tell you that you need shtei saras and you need a gadol? Milsa the pshita, for sure you need a gadol. If he's not a gadol, then ein makabel edus shelo b'fnei bal din, and the status of a katan is he's not a bal din. It's like his shelo b'fanav. A gewaldige kasha of Reb Chaim. Now, one could have answered but I don't think Reb Chaim would be satisfied with this, that since the Torah said a Ben Sorah is put to death, then Eidos to establish a Ben Sorah is itself Bifnei Baldin, meaning although a Katan is normally considered Shalom B'fanav, but for the purpose of Ben Sorah he's considered B'fanav. Even a Katan is considered B'fanav. Because otherwise, how can it be accused of being a Ben Sorah? And if we assume that this parasha Ben Sorah applies even to a Katan, then we must assume that he's being accused and two witnesses are testifying against him, and it is B'fanav. So let's see Reb Chaim's answer. V'tirates, shekemen shahava mina l'chayev katan hoisa mishum she ben sorah mor al shem sofo nerag. Oh, Reb Chaim is going to invoke the principle of al shem sofo nerag. Yesh lomar shezel din bi alma shetzorach lahargo. Wow, it's a new din. A Chal Shem Ben Sorah Mora as a separate category, and we have to put him to death. So when we say that you need Eidus B'fanav, B'fnei Baldin, that's to establish a Chiyuv Misa. But here we're not saying that there's a Chiyuv Misa that's established. Not the way we wanted to say it, that as far as the halacha ben Sorah Morer, the Torah's Machadishi is a Baldin, but that you don't have a Baldin and you don't need a Baldin because you're not establishing a Chiyuv Misa. And Al Shem Sofo, who nidon, means that we don't establish a Chiyuv Misa. There's a footnote here, and he quotes the Reb Chaim that the Chi Haygavna Gam Katan Ki B'fanav Domi. That's the way we wanted to say it. So he's not really paying attention to that line in Reb Chaim. That's not the emphasis. V'od mimonavsha im tzarich b'fanav eich be'emes moil katan. So right now, at this point, we can't justify Reb Chaim's language that he says, Gam katan ki b'fanav dam. How does that work? And he's still a katan, and it's not b'fanav. But the answer could be that we're ducking the whole system. We're not going through a system in which Bezdin, as a judiciary process, is going to establish a chiyuv misa. No. The Torah says if he's a ben sorah morer, then put him to death. Now we have a different question, which is also an extension of Reb Chaim's analysis, and that is, okay, you don't need a chiyuv misa to establish in a ben sorah morer case, but you definitely need a gemar din. At some point, Bezdin has to, after evaluating and receiving all the information, all the evidence, then they have to establish a gemar din. And the question would be, can you be gomer dino shel katan? Even if I waive the requirement of eidus b'fnei baldin, but I still require at least the bare minimum of a gemar din. So you can be makabel the eidus shalom b'fanav, but you need a gemar din. And once again, maybe Reb Chaim would argue that ben sorah morer circumvents the whole judiciary system and doesn't even require a gemar din. But that's very difficult to say. The last paragraph on page Gimel. Milvad ma she'ein mekabel edim shelo b'fnei baldin yesh halacha nosefet she'ein gomeris dino shelo b'fnei baldin. V'madua hiksha hagrach rak mitzad halacha she'ein mekabel edim shelo b'fnei katan shelo b'fnei v'lo hiksha mitzad halacha she'ein gomeris adin shelo b'fnei baldin v'katan shelo b'fanav. It's very interesting that Reb Chaim was only bothered by the halach of Eidus, but not by the halach of Gemar Din. Why is that so? So the Brisker Rav has a Gemara in Bava Kama Memhei about Shar Niskal. And the Chachamim in that Gemara require Gemar Din Bifanov, even in the case of Shar Niskal. The Shar is going to be stoned, but we need Gemar Din Bifanov. So who's Bifanov? I mean, who's there in front of the judges, the 23 judges who are establishing the Gemar Din of Skila on a Shar Niskal? It's going to be the Shar himself. Shar is not a Baldas. So you see that within the context of Gemar Din, Bifanov doesn't have to necessarily mean that he's a Bardas. So it's really interesting because the Brisker Rav is making an analogy between the death sentence for a Shar and the death sentence for a Katan, according to the Abba Gemara, in Ben Soramora. And in both cases, Bezdin could issue the verdict, the Gemar Din, Bifanov of a La Bardas. In the case of Shar Niskal, in front of the Shar. In the case of a Katan, in front of the Katan is not a Bardas. And therefore, Reb Chaim never even raised the objection, well, how are we going to be Gomer Dino if they Katan is Shalom B'fana? The answer is no. As far as Gemar Din is concerned, a Katan is B'fana. He doesn't have a status of a Bardas. What about a Shar? A Shar, according to the Chachamim, has to be B'fanav at the time of the Gemara Din, even though the Shar is allowed Barda. So what is the difference now between Eidus B'fanav, Reb Chaim says that it can't be B'fanav in the case of a Katan, and yet Gemara Din B'fanav, even a Katan, without Das, he's B'fanav. So you could say that Eidus needs a whole system of checks and balances. Gemar Din is only a technicality. I mean, we've already established all the evidence that's necessary, and we just need a Gemar Din. It's like a Geshpanka, a final, the judge. In the case of Eidus, it might be a whole different story. The Eidim have to realize what they're getting into. It's got to be Eidus Shafiochel Azima, for example. Got to scare them with that whammy. And the Gemara talks about whether you need Asra for the Eidim. Also, it could be that the Baldin will argue against the Eidim. He'll stand up and scream and yell, well, you saw this, but you didn't see this, you saw that, you didn't see that. So the halacha of Ein Mekablim Eidus El B'fnei Baldin is halacha that's built into the Haggadah Ha'edus, that the Haggadah Ha'edus requires B'fnei Baldin. And if the Katan is not about Das, then it's Shalom B'fana. That's Reb Chaim's kasha. As far as Gemar Din is concerned, that's a technicality. The Gemar Din, the Torah says, has to be in front of the accused, who's now going to be condemned. And it applies even to a shah. So let's see footnote number Yud Beis. Ubebir achiluk bein hadin shemakabla me'edus shalom b'fnei baldin, and Katan is considered shalom b'fanav. Ladin shein gomer is hadin shalom b'fnei baldin. Sha'af shor v'kolshkei kota nechshav b'fanav. He adds a point here that I didn't think of. He says that the fact that a shor has to be on site at the time of the Gemar Din, it's got to be b'fanav. That indicates that the din of the requirement, I should say, of Gemar Din b'fanav is totally different than that of Eidus b'fanav. I mean, Eidus b'fanav applies to the Baal HaShor, not to the Shor. The Huad b'Bala. We don't have to schlep the Shor in. We'll have to schlep the Shor in if we have multiple Eidus against him, that he's a Nadchan, and he killed this person, he killed that person, and now we're going to stone the Shor, then he has to be b'fanav. And now he quotes Rav Elchanan. Hadin she'ein mekablim eidus shelo b'fanav hu machmas ta'anosav. Oh, I didn't cheat. We want to give the Baldin the opportunity to smash the Eidim, counter them with arguments, and prove to them that their Eidus is insufficient. He quotes a Rashi. This I forgot. I mean, I did learn this Rashi. The Idon b'fnei bailim sheyedu liton ulahachrish ha'edim or lahavi acherim lahazimon. Oh, that's interesting. Rashi is hazon. In Kei Kotan sheni yochel liton is next up shemakabel seidus lo b'fanav. Aval masha ein gomer sadin shelo b'fanav. Oh, gzeres hakosi. Okay, that's what I said. It's a mechanical, technical requirement that the Gemara Din has to, be chal on the gavra. We're condemning you. You're now a gavra ketila. And there's no room for time over here. All the evidence has been already checked and double checked and thoroughly established as reliable. And it says in the pasuk, if they are eda lamishpat. Okay, now Avkata Nechshav Shemekabel made this one. Okay, good. I think we're on the right track, which is always exciting. So we're up to page Daled now. I forget, John, you have the Masechet on Sanhedrin? Yeah. And Ruben, you have the Masechet on Sanhedrin?
No, I'm looking. I think Steve sent it. I have to look up. The first part ended on page.
I'm almost sure he sent it out. Again, I could.
So I'm taking.
I think there was like an email that went out to the whole group. Because I think it's advantageous if you see the text inside. I like to teach from a text. Ubazet bir digduk divrei agrach shaliach shabir shekan ein zechiyuv misa. Right, that's what we said. Ein zechiyuv misa. Eladin misa bialma, meaning that there's a chal shem gavra of ben sor who has to be put to death, but it's not a chiyuv misa. Siem Reb Chaim adds the following: Dalkein mekablan edus gam kishu katan. And then Reb Chaim says that b'chihai gavne gam koton kibefonam domi. But that we don't understand what Reb Chaim means by that. We wanted to suggest that since the Torah was machayev the koton in the Havamina, then obviously the koton can be b'fonam. Otherwise, how are we going to be machayev him with edus if we can't accept any kosher edus? The kosher makavan also b'zeh she'koton b'fonam domi. Hare bir kan she'ein zechiv misa. Vein hakoton klal baldin. U'mele ein kan klal din shetzorach kabbalah edus b'fonam. So why did Reb Chaim add those words? She'koton kibefonam domi. Yeah, this to me is a chiddush that they're medayik in every word of Reb Chaim, like as if he was a rishon. But I mean, I heard from my Rebbe that Reb Chaim was very, very careful about the chiddush of Reb Chaim al Rambam. You know, he went over it and over and over and over. Ulam, l'mashen is bar yeshlom shekavonas hagrach lezel legabi adin anosach shein gomemes hadin el b'fana. You know, without the Briskerov's explanation. ועל זה כוסף ומצד זה לא כושר כלל, משום שמצינו שלגבי שור נחשב בפונו, וודאי שגם לגבי קוטן נחשב כבפונו, מצד מה שאין מקבל ועדס שלא בפני בעל דין, וזה ביר שכאן אין זה חיוב מיסה, ואין נוהג דין זה. So let's see if we can summarize this paragraph, ulam. So he's saying that Katan Kibefonam Dami is with regard to the requirement of Ein Gomer Sadin El Befonam. Meaning, just like Legabe Shor, we consider it as a Gemar Din Befonam, so too, for sure, Legabe Katan is a Gemar Din Befonam. But with regard to Kabbalah's Eidus, Reb Chaim wants to be Mechadesh that you don't require Befonov for the Gemar Din, for the Eidus, excuse me, because we have no Chiyuv Misa here. So again, he's not getting into the question of Rebbe Chanan. Why is it that, as far as Gemar Din is concerned, it's considered Befonov, and that we derive from Shor, but as far as Eidus is concerned, it's not considered Befonov. And Reb Chaim would say you don't need Befonov because it's not a Chiyuv Misa. And when Reb Chaim mentions that Katan is Befonov, he's only referring to the halacha of Gemar Din. And now we have Rebbe Chanan's explanation that in Gemar Din is Exeris HaKosu, whereas Eidus is to give the person who's on trial and is being condemned by these Eidim the possibility of fighting against it. Now it's interesting, in the Psachim Shir today, we spoke about the Brisker Rav's understanding in the Rambam of the two dimensions of the Kiyum of Dalit Kosov. And then the Aviezri had his problem with the Brisker Rav, because it comes out that according to the Brisker Rav, just drink 4 cups of wine. And the Aviezri rejects that. Here also, in this Reb Chaim about that there's no Chiyuv Misa established on the Ben Morer, again, Rav Shach has a comment on this. He says, "Me'achar shenoig bo din misa, memele nechshav mechuyav misa." Yeah, but Reb Chaim is saying those are two different things. There's a din misa and then there's a chiyuv misa. That's an abstract distinction, but fundamental, in which Reb Chaim says that there's no real chiyuv misa on the cotton. It's a din misa. If I'm not mistaken, Reb Chaim has that distinction also as far as rodef. And Reb Chaim says that, let's say we kill a katan who is endangering the life of his mother, we did rodef. Again, that's before he pops his head out. Whatever. And Reb Chaim says there's a din rodef on the katan, but not a chiyuv rodef. But the Aviezri understands that if we're going to put him to death, then it must be that he's mechuyev misa. But Reb Chaim is not on that track. Umashal shem sofu nerag hu rak tam lo meyesh bo onesh af shebishar chayv misas ein onesh misa bekoton. Aval yachar shenischadish bo misa vare shenechshav mechuyev misa. So now the Aviezri has to come up with another answer to the question of Eidu Shalom B'Fanav. Reb Chaim, right, because Katan Shalom B'Fanav, Reb Chaim's answer was because there's no Chiyuv Misa, but he's assuming the Aviezri that there is a Chiyuv Misa. So why the Eidim valid and the Eidus is validated when you don't have B'Fanav? Umasha Hiksha Grach, Harei Mekablin Eidus B'Katan, Kevin Shenechshav Shalom B'Fanav, Bir Aviezri Bazeh. Shekevan shekan. Oh, maybe he's going to say our answer. Kevan shekan chivaso Torah lekatan. That means that chivaso had Torah legadol. I think this is what we were saying before Reb Chaim, that since the Torah says, according to this Havamina, that a cotton is chayiv, that it must be he's considered with regard to these dinim of Ben Sora Mor as if he's a gadol, and it's b'fanav, and the edus can be accepted in front of the cotton. See, I think according to Reb Chaim, the edus of the Ben Sora Mor would not require that the cotton be there at all. According to the Aviezer, the cotton has to be there physically. And now he has a proof from Rav Huna. Katan mufla samach leish shenodar loket. The kosher areu kotam and mekabel neder shlo b'fono the eight kodem also lemalchus. Elamuchak the keva the leinian neder the chshivo ator kegadol the nidoro neder. So we're dealing with Malchus. The Kabbalah says the should extra kegadol. Very nice. I mean, again, I didn't have this raya from Nidarim. And Mufla Samachlish gets Malchus. I wonder why the Aviesri couldn't have quoted the halacha of Shivcha Charufa. That would also would seem to be an adequate proof as far as the chiyuv carbon. We would need the fun of the cut. But okay, here it's a chiyuv of Malchus. So we want to give Malchus. And since the Torah considered his neder as a neder, the Torah must have implied that we could be makabel edus b'fanav, even though he's a cut. So whatever he's chayav in, then it's considered b'fanav. Now we have a Gemara Yevamos on Daf Pei. Soris is not considered a ben sorin. Mishum she'ein ben sorin mor nidon el b'chasima zoker atachton v'soris ein lo saros. So now we have a kasha the Orach Laner. Etliger was his name. Yaakov Etliger. Hare Adarabu, Mavur Vishna Seinu, Shechasima Zokan Atachton, he Sibol Lefotro Midin Ben Sora. Shrak Ad Zed, knowing both Din Ben Sora. Aval Misha Yakif Zokan Atachton, Niftar. Came Machi Sor Besoris, She'em Bo Chasima Zokan. I don't think I understand his kasha. Because he says his Soros ain't both sorrows. So if a Soros doesn't have sorrows, then he can't be a Ben Soror more. I don't understand what's bothering the Aruch LaNer. I mean, Saros is a precondition to be Mechayim the Ben Soror, and this Soros cannot produce Saros. He doesn't have Saros. Maybe he means that the Soros has Saros, but he doesn't have Yaki. So let's, again, I'm not sure I understand his problem, but let's see maybe from the, the teretz he gives, maybe we'll, Lemafreya will understand this kasha. Mitchila rotzel levar shemi acher shedorshim shezmano shel ben soromora hu bizman shemsamach legruosa shel ish gruosa ish haydu kakofas zakon and came besaris she'ein bo matzav zeh shel gruas ish nimtza she'ein bo gamas azman shel samach legruosa shel ish. The chaser bisman chiyuvo. L'chein eno b'din ben sorah. So I think he's saying you need somebody who's roy la kofas zakon. That's how the Torah is defining the ish. Again, he's ben ish, so he hasn't yet reached Gvuras Shalish, and after he does so, he's mufka from the chiyuv ben sorah. But he needs to be we're describing the person of the ben sorah as someone who, with the passage of time, will reach Gvuras Shalish hakofas zakon, and the soros will never reach Gvuras ish. But for some reason, Yochaner is not happy with this answer. L'kach kosav levar b'yofen afish, be'emes abraysa b'yivamis cholekas al mishtzilzavesha adarabah, zmano shel ben sorah mor maskil rak mishayakiv zokan atachton. Wow, that's pretty wild. L'chem b'soros lo shayach l'akov zokan lo shayach lo din ben sorah. L'fi ze yishiv mashar Rambam hishmid din zeh shesoros eno b'din ben sorah mora kevin shar Rambam posek commissioner seinu shakofas azokan. He's man hapotro, below man hamachayvo. So let's see if we can. Oh, ah. With the stender, if you're not careful and you turn the wrong. Sorry, apologize here. Oh, now I got it right. All right. See what the damage here is. All right. So again, at this point, the Yochaner has a radical departure, and he says that the Sugya Yivamis is not like our Mishnah. And at what point in his maturation does a ben become roy to become a ben sorah? It's only Mishiyakif Hazok. A soris can never reach Hakofas Hazok, and therefore he can be Chayvis ben sorah. What does he do with this breakthrough as far as explaining the Rambam is concerned? The Rambam left out the halacha that a soros is not included ben sorah. The Rambam paskins like our Mishnah that Hakofas Hazokon is the beginning of the Ptur, not the Machayev. And therefore you could have a din of ben sorah morer being chay of a soros being chayav as ben sorah morer. Wow. That is pretty wild. So he's not willing to accept that you need a ben that's roy fakov and zokan. I mean, chaschinoch mevayer es habraisa b'yivamos she'omnam hakofas zokan atachton. So according to the Minchas Chinuch, not like the Aruch LaNer, the Bavli in Yavamis agrees that Hakofis Azokin is a poter, but Miachar Shator Dibral Ben Kozesh Shayach Hakofis Azokin. Oh, so he has to be Roy for Hakofis Azokin to the exclusion of a story. That was actually, I think, the original answer of the Aruch LaNer, but for some reason he wasn't happy with it. Lefi Zeb Ben Shu Treifa. Now he quotes here a bunch of Achronim, the Shar Melech, the Avnei Miluim, the Mayim Chaim, to the Pri Chodosh. They all deal with this issue of a Ben who's a Treifa. And it all depends upon whether a Treifa is capable of being molid or not. And the Gemara darshans from Ben that lo haroi lekroso av. V'hainu shemizman sharoi lekroso av, which is 3 months after his gadlus, einam eschayev did ben sorah. Because he's got to be a ben, and after those 3 months from the time that he has shtei saras, then he's royalios av. And the Torah says ben, so he's excluded. Im kein gam kan yeshlo masha'af shemasher roy lekroso av. Usibel apotro on the me'achar shator dibral ben, because this is shayach bo matzav sheroy lekroso av, and kein kishlo shayach bo matzav zekal ena b'chal parasha. Im kein lefiat sad shetreifay molid yesh lamay treifay midin ben solomon. So if you need roy Leos Av, again, Av is a poter, but you need someone who could become an Av and then achieve the Ptur that's derived from Ben. And if you hold that a Treifa could not become an Av, then he's excluded from Ben Soromora because he's not Roy to become an Av. Again, a Ben Soromora is not someone who is an Av, but he has to be royally close to Av. So the 3 months period of time in which he's then befall able to be an Av is a poter, but for the Chiyuv, we need that he could become, after 3 months, a royal Kroso Av, which is a poter. So that's the Minchas Chiyuv. And then following this, he has a whole section here about royal Kroso Av. Okay, then Ruben, this is where we'll stop for today. And be in touch with me if you need to know about the schedule for tomorrow.
Okay.